Hope the rest of the audience won't mind. I think we're in Hollywood, California, home of the Hubble telescope and all these scientific things. I want to ask some cosmological questions, if I may. In the Edgar Casey readings, he mentioned Arcturus. And I forget whether it was in between lives, but I thought it was after we've finished with enough lives in bodies here, that we would go to Arcturus and decide or be told where we're going, what we're going to do next. Can you comment on that, please?
Not really. There is some of what you have said that does not correspond with our knowledge of who you are and why you are here and what happens next. In other words, you're not sent somewhere and given an assignment. You are a creator who chooses. And as you are here creating in this time-space reality, when you reemerge into non-physical, we are aware of no one who reemerges and takes off for some other frontier. In other words, this is the realm in which you are creating. Your escrow is about this, you see. So we just want to, without getting into detail about why someone is translating something differently than we are, we just want to explain that every person who asks is asking from a different vibration, and every teacher who is translating from a different point of view. And in reverence to all translators, we want to say it is not an easy thing to translate one's knowledge of non-physical energy into physical terms without distortion. In other words, your world is full of what cannot be considered anything other than folklore. Think about what people of your planet are accepting as some sort of reality. Have you considered building a boat and putting two of everything on it?
Well,
and so it's sort of like that. In an effort to offer analogies and such, people could even argue about the analogy of the vortex of creation that we are describing here and turn it into a place and call it a planet. Before you know it, there'll be a planet called Vortex, and they'll be telling people that Abraham said you're all going there.
Okay, you're throwing me right on my head here. I thought I came with some ideas that made sense. And,
well, we don't want to throw you on your head, so let's hear them.
Oh, well, that's fine. If I walk out of here on my head, that's fine too, I suppose. All right. One of the quick questions I hope you will say you don't know anything about or you can't answer. The Big Bang, expanding universe, it appears that it's expanding at an accelerating rate, and the way it's going in a few trillion years, then this galaxy, we won't be able to see any other galaxies that will have all disappeared. Is that what you folks see, or?
Now, give us more about that. Slow it down and say it again.
All right, the physical universe.
Yes.
Current cosmological pictures of it per the greatest and best scientists, and pretty well all of the physicists,
yes,
and cosmologists say that there was a Big Bang so many trillion years ago, 13 trillion.
So before you go further, let us define this vortex of creation that we're talking about. In other words, if you accept that everything is vibration,
all right,
and that once thought is thought upon longer, it becomes a more dominant thought, and that there is a point, a tipping point, where the vibrational thought has been considered long enough that it tips into what you call manifestation. Okay. That is our best explanation of what the Big Bang is. And yes, of course, it fits with what we are talking about all that you see here having been in a vibrational version first, thought upon by many for what you would in your terms call a long period of time before it began amassing into the physical equivalent of it. And that is what scientists have come to call the Big Bang. They talk about it with question. They have no awareness of causation about it. So we are feeling that piece in a bit.
Yes.
But there is so much more to be experienced in this universe that has already been started. That's why we're saying that you're returning to the platform that you understand.
Okay.
Sort of fits together.
All right, that sort of answers things, and thank you. Last question then. I think I've detected what I might call a subtle but tuned-in sense of humor in Abraham's answers.
We find you all hilarious, yes.
Is this something that you learned and cultivated, or is it something that is Esther's and which learned to integrate with these sessions?
Well, Esther is full of fun, and that's one of the reasons that we are vibrationally compatible. But beyond that, you will discover and have discovered that there is a true humor in the timing of the unfolding of things. And the universe, who is this culminating of expansion from this secure and trusted platform where there is no sense of risk or guardedness, is more playful in nature than anything else. And we think Esther represents that well as she interprets. You have to remember, she's receiving a block of thought that is filled with nuances and knowledge and intentionality and essence of understanding. And to find the words and the attitude and the delivery that match all of that is something that she is doing. And so we cannot say that it is not in part Esther's interpretation. Yes. But she is interpreting our intention. And over time, you have to understand, so many hours, immeasurable hours nearly, of us flowing through Esther. And each time of our offering something, and each time her intention to translate it clearly, and each time, if it is the slightest bit leaning, we lean it the other way. In other words, because of her willingness and the willingness of those like you to play with us, we've had quite a bit of opportunity to get into the understanding of what these vibrational offerings mean, and her interpretation of them is accurate.
I think you and she together do very well, and it has interested and amused me to see that. I do actually have one other question, and a tiny one. How did you know about my little finger? But I won't force you to answer that one. The big question, Abraham, how many of you are there? You seem to be I guess you refer to yourselves as the dead guys.
Now you see, it's exactly that kind of thing that evokes folklore.
Okay.
Because you want us to quantify in terms that you understand something that is non-physical.
Okay, well...
So what is the number of infinite intelligence?
Yeah, well, what's the number in your group?
Well, what is the number of infinite intelligence? Give us a number and we'll agree.
You're not answering my question.
Is it more than
right.
that? In the beginning, we said to Esther, because Esther really wanted to know that too, because she could feel that sometimes there would be someone with very powerful question, and she could feel what felt like a huge cadre of energy lined up and answering. She could just feel it. And other times, a more frivolous question would bring what felt like a more frivolous and much smaller group, and she could feel that the question itself was evoking different depths and breadths of whatever this Abraham stuff was. And so she one day, in a very determined fashion, wanted to know how many of you are there. And we said 100, which satisfied her at the time. But it is really not a very good answer. So if you're going to pin us down to it, we're not going to give you a very good answer.
Okay, thank you.
There are as many of us as it takes to satisfy the question to the degree that you will allow it.
Oh, excellent.
There is no limit to the amount of those who join in. In other words, this energy is filled with those listening. In other words, you gather together in scanty numbers, we gather together in huge numbers. And the interest of that which we are, in other words, we represent the inner being of each and every one of you, and so much more, you see. And so as you have an inner being that we are talking about, we have inner beings who have inner beings who have inner beings, because we are eternal beings. We've all been around for a very long time. So when you come forth with a very powerful desire and a very succinctly focused question, there is no limit to the depth and breadth of that which you can summon. And to the degree that you are willing to hear it, that is the degree to which we are willing to give it.
And you don't have to schedule your time or anything like that for these meetings.
Well, we are timeless, and that's a function of your focus here, but we are not limited by your time or your space.
Great. So is that
But
the
we
answer
do
to my
appreciate the rendezvous, because in rendezvousing in your time, you focus in a way that summons us more powerfully. In other words, when a group like this gathers and focus with interest, and this is a remarkable group, you sit for hours on end and allow others who are asking questions that may not be the question that you hold, but still you focus and listen. It is remarkable what you summon, and it is to your credit that this work expands, truly.
Thank you.